this segment, we'll be talking to Dwayne Samuels, who is the CEO of Samelogic, an agile experiment and SaaS product. I'll let him talk a little bit more about it. But Dwayne and I go way back. We were both Bronson entrepreneur. We have seen his growth going off to Silicon Valley. Welcome to Digital Housing, Dwayne. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Hey, Javette. Thanks for having me.
So, Dwayne, I want you to, for listeners and for everybody watching online, talk to me about what Samelogic does and the problem that you're solving.
Yeah, for sure. What we're building at Samelogic is a platform that product teams and product managers can use to conduct experiments very quickly. One of the problems with the experimentation process in the whole product development lifecycle is that it takes a very, very long time for PMs to do that because of their dependence on engineers, right? So to set up an experiment to justify building a feature or a tool or whatever can take anywhere between 14 days to like a few months, which is like ridiculous.
Right.
This happens because PMs don't have most PMs don't code, So less than 5% of product managers actually code, and like probably around 3% kind of like understand how to code a bit, and like the rest don't like coding at all, So they definitely need engineers, and two, they need data scientists to like make sense of all the information so they can actually report to their superiors on things they should actually do to make sure that they're building the right product, right? So what we're building is basically a platform that helps them to conduct these experiments on UI elements within 5 minutes. So it's cutting down like a 14-day cycle just to a few minutes, that's what we're building.
Okay, so we were together at the Branson Center. You made the transition from student at Northern Caribbean University, building out the business card sharing app in Jamaica to Silicon Valley. How was that transition done for you? And what are some of the lessons that you can impart to people who are looking as a Jamaican designer, a Jamaican coder, to make the same sort of transitions?
It was like an odd transition, I guess. So like for me and Sean, my co-founder, like we've lived through all the companies I've been a part of. Like Sean has pretty much been the co-founder of all those companies as well. So like we've always like wanted to like build something that's like very huge, something that potentially could like go public one day, or get acquired for like a ton of money,
yes.
hopefully, and also like just being able to affect like change on like 1 billion lives, like we tried to do that with Grickley. Grickley was kind of hard to do, pulling it off like in the Caribbean space, right? And also like when we kind of looked on different things, and when it comes down to like access to resources, access to mentorship, at that time it was very, very, very hard for you to have access to those things. Thankfully the Branson Center was there to support us with those things at that time. But I think also like with the shortcomings where that's concerned, there wasn't as much knowledge in the space for growing technology companies, right, to the biggest thing they could actually be, Yes. So when looking around the world, like obviously the Valley stood out, and I applied to go to Draper University, and NCB actually like funded my stay and also my tuition at Draper University for that time, So huge shout outs to Sandra Glasgow and Nadine Matthews at NCB Foundation.
Wonderful.
So it was through them that I actually got to like really experience the Valley and like grow my network there, and like over the years build level of trust. I'm not sure if you know, we recently raised a round of funding.
Yes, I did see the story. So congratulations on the raise. I actually have some specific questions that I want to ask you about that. So don't give away too much
no problem.
because I'm getting to that. But
no problem. Okay, I'll leave it there. But yeah, so building the whole thing around that kind of like started from that point, you know. But yeah, that it was a very very weird transition. Also, it's not really for everyone, I would say, because it's very as a founder, you know, like it's very hard, you know.
Right.
But being in the valley is just even weirder because like you're surrounded with people who like are experts at what they do. They have like multiple PhDs. They worked at like all the fine companies, you know, and sometimes when you say you're from Jamaica, you kind of you get looked down upon because
Right.
like you know, like Jamaica is not known for technology, you know. So establishing ourselves as people who know what we're doing, it was hard, you know, but with everything, it's kind of, you can accomplish everything with like a pleasant personality and also with just perseverance, you know. So when they see me showing up to all these events and showing up to the boardroom all the time, you know, like you just have to be unstoppable, you know.
Sure.
And I think as a founder and as an entrepreneur, that's something we all get. We have to always just persevere and just get what we want done, you know.
Sure. So you're before even founding Samelogic, you did a number of things. And I think you and Sean won the Imagine Cup. If you were a part of an ecosystem that was a part of Microsoft in Jamaica. Talk to me about how that kind of association helped you to build, to grow, and to understand more about the impact that you wanted to create.
Yeah. So yeah, man, like with everything, you know, like you can't accomplish anything without having like a very good framework around you, you know, having a good network of people around you, a good support system,
Right.
you know. And to start it off, I've always like been a nerd since high school, you know. I think that helped a bit. I've always in the computer lab, you know. I didn't have internet at home, you know.
Right. You
So
didn't have internet at home.
yeah, I
Wow.
basically, yeah.
And
So
you went on to majoring in computer science, studying coding. Wow.
yeah. So I spent like a lot of times I would basically like just go in the lunch line really, really quickly or get someone to order my lunch for me so I could like just stay in the computer lab to learn like various things, you know. And the same thing after school as well. I used to stay in the lab every single day until like the lab closed.
Right.
And the same thing happened in college as well. And that's how like I met Sean. We were like hacking together some things in the computer in the lab in NCU. You know, like he looked across at my screen, I was looking across at his screen. I was like, oh, we're kind of doing the same thing. So we started talking.
Right.
And then pretty much we realized we had like the same, like similar objectives. You know, we wanted to really build something that is huge, you know, and that kind of like led us to going to the Microsoft Imagine Cup. And like the mentors at that time were so instrumental that we had, namely Halson Smith, Kenry Hilton, and Henry Osborne. Mm-hmm. They helped us to understand how to properly think about a concept and how to like go about validating that concept and how to also build that concept as well, you know. And we tried before, like in 2009 we got selected to represent the Caribbean and Latin America in Egypt, and the same thing happened in 2010, and we won in 2010 in Warsaw, Poland. So that kind of like gave us like the I would say the idea that we can actually accomplish something that seemed kind of impossible, you know?
Right.
And that kind of just planted a seed that, look, with perseverance, you can actually accomplish anything. And I think that pretty much was the framework or the basis on which our careers are built on.
All right. So growing up in middle Jamaica, no internet at home, going on to winning the Imagine Cup in Poland. Did that make you feel? How did that translate to you? What did it help you to go on to all of the other things that you were able to do?
For sure. So like, you know, the internet is like the thing that kind of just levels the playing ground for everyone, right? And there is like literally everything that you want to learn is online. We just like try to maximize the amount of time we had access to the internet and like just download all the resources we could, like read everything that we could to see how we could actually build something. And that's how I heard about like the Branch Center as well. You know, I'm just looking for mentors, looking for entrepreneurship programs that could help us like further ourselves with that. So at the time, Lisa Lake was the CEO, and then Lisandra came afterwards.
Yes, yes.
And they like just really, I was like really, even, I think even now I'm not really good at like reading a company financials and stuff like that.
Right.
But like having the basic understanding, it was Lisa and Lisandra who actually like, drove that home, you know. And that really, really helped when when various VCs asked us to show us or financial models, different things like that. It's like the way that we were taught at the Branch Center, you know, and that really, really helped.
Oh, wonderful. I will talk a lot about your customer acquisition, but I want to spend some time on just to paint a picture for the general audience on how Dwayne has been able to develop and grow before we get into some of how he's growing his company and all of that. You mentioned your cap raise. Congratulations again, phenomenal.
Thanks.
Talk to me about that process as a black person raising money as well in Silicon Valley. How difficult was that? We know that there's not a lot of African American or black entrepreneurs leading SaaS companies. How did you work on that process to get to a point where you were able to execute a successful raise?
Like as I said before, like having a network and a support system is like really, really important, you know. Also more important, well, I wouldn't say more important, but as equally as important is just like treating everyone like humans, you know, like just having respect for everyone you kind of like you meet, you know. So this process, I would say, literally started like around three-ish years ago, like when we started Samelogic. I usually spend like around 6-ish months in the Valley, you know, just try like to grow my network there and you know, like and always just try to like network with various people that I come across, and also just to understand like how the ecosystem works, you know, like why is the Valley different from everywhere else, and how can we replicate that in other places, and also like how can we as founders, you know, grow companies to be like as big as Facebook, where you have like 1 billion, 2 billion users, you know. So like interacting with like people from like all stratas of companies, you know, from like entry level marketing associates to like CTOs and CEOs of like large companies.
Right.
You know, that kind of like just really helped in just solidifying or self in that space, you know. And the more and more people you know, the more people talk about you, and like the more people talk about you, like you kind of become like a good reference point for certain things, right? So well, I easily go off tangent. What was the question again?
So I was asking how difficult, given we all hear matters of diversity in the U.S. context, black entrepreneurs, African American entrepreneurs. So I was wondering how that element played into your attempts to raise and to scale and grow as not as a black American, but as somebody coming from the Caribbean into a Silicon Valley environment.
Exactly. I don't want to like try to get any brownie points or anything, but I think it was like equal, like probably 2 times as hard for us coming from like outside of the country as well, you know. One, you don't understand the mannerisms, you don't like understand like various things, you know, so we had to like literally learn every single thing along the way. So yeah, it was really hard. It was pretty hard. But the only thing that kind of like brought us through is just like having that network that we could rely on and like ask for advice, you know, and like regularly check in on, and just basically let them be a part of the entire process, you know. So So yeah, like it was very difficult.
Right. So it sounds like it needed a little bit of radical openness on your part.
Say again, please. A radical what?
Openness to the new experience, to everything that was new and different from what you would generally used to.
Yeah. So yeah, like it's like as a founder, you're supposed to always like just be learning. Like learning like everything, like how products work, how people work, and how ecosystems work. And just understanding how things work and just implementing that into your approach kind of like just helps you to approach various things properly.
Okay.
So that really helped. And yeah, it's what founders should do. Always just be learning engines, be learning machines, and try to like to absorb as much information as you can, and not only absorb it but use it.
Okay. Is this your first cap raise?
Oh yeah, this is my first. It's my first venture raise. This is our first raise at all. Like we've never for all the companies we've run, we've never raised any sort of financing or any sort of funding. We've run a few competitions, so we got grants, but we've never had venture funding for any of our companies.
Okay, are you able to say what the size of this raise was and what was the things that you're going to be bringing to the market as a result of it?
Well, for now it's undisclosed, but it's under 2 million. Okay. So for that, what we'll be doing is basically bringing the product to I would say like a critical mass, like a small critical mass. Like what we'll be doing is enabling product managers to basically drag and drop these UI experiments very very easily on their products, and just make them have a product they really really love. So the different approach, I would say, like with venture funding, is that you have the ability to not chase paying customers that quickly, and that comes with like some caveats as well. I mean, both sides actually have some caveats. Sometimes when you're chasing paying customers, you kind of come off as too salesy and you lose that lead. But also like when you don't have like paying customers up front, pretty much they kind of like probably abuse a product and like just churn after like you added like a payment plan, right? But the different ways you can actually avoid that, how companies have actually do it, just make the customer the center of the entire approach. Be a very customer centric company, and also just over communicate with your users to let them be very transparent of like what's happening within the company. So if they know what's happening within the company and know what you're building, and they feel a part of your community, that's one way you keep people in your company or in your product, using your product. That's how you increase retention.
Sure. And I think that's a good segue to going into the marketing conversation. You're building, you have a B2B business, but you're a business that is built on this whole drive that is a digital economy that is the reality for all of us. How did you, in terms of your own marketing, you talked about putting the customer at the center. How did you do that in a practical way when you're building out?
I think it kind of like goes down to the values we have, as founders, because like me and Sean, we're deep product people, like we love building. We love building stuff, and I think like the core values that we actually have, like it kind of like it circles around like three main things, I would say. Just value, like understanding what values the customer has or the user has, having like very strong like product values, and also just having very strong leadership values as well. So those three things, I would say, are the three pillars that your product should actually like be on top of. So if you break each of those down into various segments, for us, or customer values is that like we always dog food what we build. By dog fooding, I mean like if you're building a product or a feature or anything, you use it first. You implement it on your solution,
Right.
so that you understand the experience that the user is having, right? And from that, like if you build something and you dog food it, you don't like it, it probably means that like you didn't build it in the best process. You didn't build it in the best way, right?
Right.
So being customers of our product is one core value, right? And also like just having user satisfaction. You know, it's kind of amazing like how many companies there exist, both digital and non-digital companies, that don't take customer feedback into perspective. You know, and you won't know if your customers or users are satisfied if you don't communicate with them effectively, and just having a very very open pathway for them to air their issues with you. You know, so like having client satisfaction is very very key for us, and having open communication as well. Also, like I would say it's kind of funny, but like we troll a lot, you know, like internally we always like tell jokes and everything like that. So I think that also is something that users can actually tell when using a product for companies. Like for example with GitHub, right? When you hit like a 404 page, like when GitHub doesn't load, you see like a Wookiee on Alderaan, you know,
Right,
so you know
right.
they're into Star Wars, you know, and you can actually tell like from that, like they're like hip to that culture.
Right. Dwayne, we were talking about marketing. Well, we're beginning the conversation, and you were talking about the culture and the value of and understanding your business value, and the thing that you just put in understanding and practically operationalizing how you understand what the customer is looking for.
Yeah.
So you had talked about using your own product. You were talking about being the deep knowledge of the product, that you are a fan of the product as well. So you getting real understanding of what people are looking for within the product, and driving from that. Picking up the conversation from there, in a marketing sense, as a B2B business, what was critical for you? What are some of the things that were critical for you as a B2B business?
We're actually B2C though, so it's kind of like a downstream B2B, I would say. So like it's more it's more B2C than B2B. But yeah, the one thing that's like a few things that are critical to us is one, understanding like your personas, right? Your user personas. So now we have like 4 user personas,
Right,
that we're targeting. We're targeting
and for the benefit of the people who have never worked on user persona, a user persona is an archetype or an example that you have put down of the person who is likely to be using the product. So it is John Brown, who these are his characteristics, these are the brands he likes, this is what he does online, who is likely to use the product, right?
Exactly. Some of our 4 personas are like, one, we have engineers, product managers, aspiring product managers, and like founders, right? So and under those, each of those personas would have like basically listed out like what key things they do, the age range, where they live, things they do, networks they're on, different things like that. And that's how you kind of like know exactly how to develop your targeting strategy, right? So it's around that. And also, I would say we kind of like love looking at different taxonomies as well, like different
What is
ways
taxonomy?
how. So it's basically like how an ecosystem works, and also like how what frameworks make it work. You know, one thing that we're using internally is this thing called Bloom's taxonomy, which like a lot of teachers use. For Bloom's, for what you need to do is it has like 6 different steps, right? And in those steps, you kind of like build your strategy from a small level up to like a very very large thing, right?
Right.
The way how we start, like so the first thing in Bloom's is it starts with knowledge. And that kind of like helps people to understand what you're doing, right? So for us, like we're helping product managers to conduct experiments very quickly, right? So we need to like communicate that very quickly so they understand what we're doing. And the way we do that is through like podcasts, blogs, documentation, articles, different things like that, right? Another thing is the next step from that is basically helping them to understand to demonstrate that they actually understand like what we're doing, you know. So one way we haven't implemented this as yet, but one thing we want to do to implement it is by basically putting like interactive quizzes in various sections of our blogs, and so they can actually like properly understand what they've read to let us know they understand what's inside there, and also step 3 is where the state of flow actually happens. So with the state of flow, like when you're above it, things are too hard, so you kind of lose interest, and when it's under it, it's like it's too easy, so you lose interest. Right. But step 3 is like where you actually hit that sweet spot, the state of flow, which is the application level, right? And with that, you can really know if people understand what they've seen by properly interpreting and using what they saw in the first 2 steps. So having like a sandbox and just basically like having them like use the product in different use cases helps as well, you know. And then
just for just for the audience, what is a sandbox?
Oh yeah, a sandbox is like an area on a website or a platform that you can use the product freely to experiment or play with, right? So if you're building, say for example, a chatbot, you basically would have it in an environment where you send a message and the message gets sent back to you, but like it's not really been sent from a real user. It's like someone just testing the product itself. So it's like a test environment. I would say. Right.
Some of the terminologies and some of the things that you have looked at. You have a software as a service product. Can people who are building other types of products use the same methodologies in looking at their marketing and understanding their customers?
For sure.
And kind of take us, if you weren't, take yourself out of what you're currently building, and how do you apply that to something that is not a software as a service product? I think it can work. So being like a taxonomy, right? It's something that you can replicate in different things. You just have to understand like which parts of your business fit into what component, and you have to understand the entire user process, user journey, and then segment that into various parts, and then break each of those segments down to properly understand their journey, you know, and then make the best possible experience for that journey, you know. So I think it's possible. Like obviously, I'm not an expert when it comes on to non-software businesses, but especially Bloom's wasn't based on software. It's based on education for teachers, right? Helping students to understand how to learn properly, and like letting teachers teach in the best possible way, you know, to set up their curriculum in the best possible way. So I think it's possible for companies to use different approaches, different strategies, different taxonomies, and different things they're building, even if they're not software based. So what I think, and you can correct me, what I'm hearing is be a fan of your own product and your user experience. Yes. Put the customer at the center of that. And in doing so, develop customer personas, which is basically an archetype of the users that you're trying to target for your product. Create test environment that you can get rapid feedback, and document the customer journey. Exactly.
And also, don't be afraid to experiment.
Right.
That's a key thing as well. Being able to experiment kind of opens you up to like new ideas and new ways to do things, and is probably the key thing that makes companies grow very, very rapidly. So yeah.
So let's shift a little bit now to your marketing.
Yeah.
How on your client acquisition strategies? How are you doing that in a practical way? What are the software tools you're using? How are you gaining the insights that you're looking for to understand your customers better?
Yeah. So we're currently using somewhat like a mixed inbound strategy. Um, so most of our users right now, they've been referred through word of mouth. We had like the first users for our alpha product. They're at Uber, Google, Pinterest, and a few other like software companies with the very first alpha we built. So going off of word of mouth and like a little bit of inbound help us to like validate different parts of the product which we're building. So the tools that we're kind of using for that, like we're heavily like, even though like our website is very, very simple, we optimize it like a lot to like to capitalize on like SEO and like different things people are searching for in the experimentation marketplace and the product management marketplace.
Yes.
And that kind of helps us to like understand what things we need to double down on when we're ready to like move forward with like a full-on marketing strategy.
Sure.
So we use this tool called Ahrefs, which is like a really powerful SEO tool. And also
Can you repeat the name?
we're Ahrefs.
Okay.
So it's Ahrefs. Ahrefs. That really helps with it's a very powerful SEO tool. With that as well. So and I think I also mentioned in the blog as well, in the not the blog, in the taxonomy part, the Bloom's taxonomy part, that we're focused on like creating content as well. So we started this podcast for like we haven't posted any stuff over the last month and a half. It's been really, really busy. Closer to the mid next month, we'll be putting out more episodes. We have like a few episodes from IBM, Facebook, and different things like that. But yeah, podcast is very important with the strategy as well. We got like some really, really good leads from the few episodes we have up. We have up five episodes. We've got some really, really strong leads through our podcast.
So your podcast is being used as a customer acquisition tool.
Yes.
In addition to what you're doing for SEO and your general inbound strategy.
Exactly. And other tools that we use, like we're pretty bare bones. We use HubSpot and I would say traditional email, Twitter sometimes as well. Right. But yeah, those are the key things we actually use.
Sure. How are you measuring the return on your investment? Whether it's a podcast, you have to put time in. Maybe you have a nice mic in front of you, which I'm sure you're using on your podcast.
Oh, thanks.
How do you measure the return on your marketing investment?
So for us, the return on investment, I wouldn't say it's financial. It's more like how many people actually completed the install of the product.
Right.
That's our North Star metric.
Right.
How many people completed the entire process of starting to implement the product and fully implementing the product, and also getting the value they can, the best amount of value they can from installing the product. So for us, installs, I think is a really simple way to say it. Installs is the key return on investment, I would say, for us right now. And through the various stages of a company. That's the thing with a startup. Your North Star always changes based on the stage you are, the growth stage you are, right? So for now, for us now, it's like installs. We're assuming in the next like 3 or 4 months, I'm guessing like it'd be like probably follow through rates, I'm guessing. And then obviously like when we're at like a C stage or D stage company, it would be like some sort of revenue, MRR, ARR, different things like that, So it definitely changes. And as a startup, you have to be always focused on growth, always be focused on like, how do I maximize the resources that I have currently, and how do I use this to get to the next level, and also like making a really, really great product at the same time.
Right. So if we're looking, you know the Jamaican marketplace very well. You know the landscape. You know where we are in terms of our digital, I don't know, life cycle. If that's a word. What are some of the immediate things that you think Jamaican companies need to be doing to ensure that we get higher up the value chain in terms of digital, and that we're really ramping up our tooling so we can be less of consumers of technology as they become popular, and more to what you're currently doing, which is pushing the envelope and generating and becoming producers of whether that is software or other digital technologies?
Yeah. It's a very tough question, you know, because like it's different ecosystems have different things you need to do, right? Obviously, like taking this approach, the approach we're taking could never work in the Jamaican like landscape or the Jamaican ecosystem, right? It would be very, very difficult because like one like the way how companies are structured is also very different internally. You know, you don't really have like a culture of experimentation. You don't really have product managers. You have project managers, which are two different things, right? And also, you just have to really understand like how the ecosystem works at its core, and then kind of work around that, you know. But there are a few things I think you could be taken away from both parts, I guess. One is just basically having like a culture that's just very, very responsive and very open. I think like Jamaican companies are changing as well, you know, and being more digital. The digital transformation to happen, right? Hello, am I still here?
Yes, you're here. We're here.
Okay, got it. Yeah, so so COVID kind of is helping us to as a country to push the digital revolution, I would say. But this is a very, very tough question. I don't think it can be answered like in 5 minutes or an hour or probably like a whole week. You know, you just have to like very understand it from its core, you know, and then work from that. You know, so. Yeah, I really don't know. I don't know.
Let's shift away from marketing, because I think we have gotten a lot, especially with other speakers, around how you're building your marketing tool set in digital.
Yeah.
I want to jump back to your capital raise. You spoke to some of the things that you could not do in an operating environment in the Caribbean. But I also think one of the things that wouldn't happen in the Caribbean is your ability to raise funding in the way you have raised funding.
Yeah, for sure.
And I want you to talk a little bit about why is that an important thing for us to adjust in terms of how we assess companies' viability for capital?
Well, you have to look at it from the standpoint as well, where we're still very, very early in the stage of like understanding how to grow companies or how to like build technology companies, right? Compared to the Valley, like they're
the thing that Packer was doing this a long time.
Say again, please.
I'm saying Packer and HP was building the Valley for a long time.
Exactly. They've been doing it for a long time, right? So they value companies differently. You know, once you have the three key things they focus on: one, the ability to build a product; two, the I would say the level of trust they have in you as a company based on the people you know. Mm-hmm. And three, the ability that they think that you as a founder have to grow the company, you know, it definitely affects your valuation, right? So we don't have like hundreds of thousands of users, you know, but we'll definitely get like a drastically different valuation in Jamaica compared to the Valley, that's it's because like Jamaican VCs are risk averse, and I think to some extent, they're also like right to be risk averse because it's something that is very, very embryonic, I would say, you know? So you got to make sure that like you're doing the right thing first, and then you got to make sure you have like the first couple of wins for something to actually take off, you know? For us, that's the reason we decided to like spend a lot of time in the Valley, you know, and just like grow our ecosystem here, because like it's going to take a long time for the Jamaican ecosystem to get to that level. It's happening quickly, don't get me wrong, but we wanted to like grow a company and also like be a part of the change that's happening in the Caribbean, so that more light is shone on the region, and also more so Jamaica, because there's a lot of talent there. So it's a very difficult question again, you know, investors just need to like see the value in companies, assess based on not only like who people know as well, but like just assess on based on the hunger and the drive that people have as well, and we'll see what can actually change, you know. We'll see.
No, absolutely. Dwayne, thank you so very much for being a part of Digital Housing and talking to us. I've personally benefited a lot from this conversation, and I hope our audience has too. Best of luck. I'm looking forward to catching up with you when you're in Jamaica or when I'm in the US as per usual. Thanks for being a part of this. And if you have anything pathing that you think is important for the Jamaican ecosystem, for an understanding of digital, please, closing remarks.
What do I say? Just create a culture of experimentation, right? Especially in digital marketing. Like there are so many things you can do. There are so many tools out there, and yeah, don't be afraid to try something new. You know, and I think that's what I'd end with.
Right, sure. Thank you so much, Dwayne. Ladies and gentlemen,
no
I've been talking to Dwayne Samuel, CEO of Samelogic, Jamaican entrepreneur. Doing amazing things in the US, building out an amazing SaaS company. He's on LinkedIn. He's a avid sharer of fantastic articles, particularly on SaaS, on customer acquisition and all of that. I read a lot of what Dwayne posts online, so I encourage you to follow him as well. Thank you, Dwayne. Look forward to our conversations in the future.
No problem.
Have a good one.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure.